Welcome, everybody. Super excited to have this live stream with you guys. We have some incredible guests that we're going to be speaking to here today, and I want to make sure you guys understand a little bit about what you can expect. Things are changing. There's a lot of tokenization going on in the space, and we want to make sure we're actually bringing you the best possible information about how this is actually happening, some of the benefits, and really what kind of sets things apart. I'm talking about how we have, your blockchain actually keeping things transparent, keeping making sure that people are actually holding the assets that they say they're holding, enabling investors that might not have a lot of money, let's say your micro investors of the world, to be able to participate in the space, and even lending, yield farming, things that you can actually benefit from this fractional ownership of these assets, which is a really, really exciting space. To kick things off, I would love to go around the room and kind of get a few brief intros to make sure that we kind of get to know everybody here and make the most of our time. Audrey, if you would mind, how about we kick it off with you?
Hey, so yes, Audrey Nesbitt. I go as altcoin Audrey on X, and I have been in the cryptocurrency space since 2014. I've been directly in the mining space, traditional mining, not Bitcoin, for the last 3 years. And I've known, I've been writing about how tokenization of real world assets will affect junior mining, mining stocks, precious metals, etc. And at Goldie City, we are tokenizing gold and silver, and it's an incredible platform and ready for anyone to come and check it out if they're interested in tokenizing their precious metals.
I love to hear it. We also have some legends in the space here. Barry, why don't you give everybody a quick intro and let everybody know what Gold Zip is all about?
Okay, good. Hi, can you hear me? I think so. Yeah.
Loud
Okay.
and clear.
Okay. Okay. My name is Barry Yip. Okay. I've been in this crypto industry for over 10 years. I was in traditional banking before, and then I moved into the crypto space, and I joined the Hong Kong Gold Exchange since 2019. And since then, I'm working on this GoSip project. At GoSip, our mission is to transform gold from a static vault asset into a high velocity digital currency. We are bridging the heritage of a Hong Kong Gold Exchange with the modern DeFi to provide uh, banking grade security to to every day's retail investors. So basically, that's my project.
Fantastic. Great to hear it. All right, next up, how about you, Ronald? Let everybody know what Silver Times is all about.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks for inviting us. I'm Ronald from SilverTimes. I haven't been around in crypto base for a really short time. But I started as a bullion trader for since like 2014. I have been trading silver principally, silver bullions and gold bullions in Hong Kong since 2014. And I think in last year we can see that silver price is have a really strong momentum, and we see that there's a huge entrance barrier for retail investors. So that's why we come up with tokenization ideas, whether we can use blockchain technology to democratize silver investments. So our silver out of way projects, our silver, which is called SilverTimes, is one-to-one packed to physical silver. The underlying asset include like silver bars, which will be 50% of our silver bar will be stored in like recognized vaults, internationally recognized vaults. Another half of the underlying asset will actually be like forward silver contracts at some of the international brokers. By having like forward contracts, we are able to free up some cash to put it into money market funds to generate interest to cover our operation fees. And ultimately, we hope to provide free silver investment tools to our retail investors with zero transaction fees and annual charges, which will be free for everybody to come on board.
Very cool. Grant, how about yourself over there, Kubernetes space?
Hey everyone, I'm Grant Blaisdell. Also been in the blockchain market about 12 years. Previously co-founded CoinFirm, which is a pioneering and leading platform around AML analytics for crypto and digital assets. Currently, I lead Copernicus Space, where I'm CEO and co-founder. We're financial infrastructure and marketplace for space assets. So we actually use blockchain and tokenization to be the foundation for what's going to be the largest maybe new asset class in human history, which is space assets, a category we defined as real world space assets. So not directly tied to gold and precious metals, although what we do in the space market overall over the next decades will eventually highly impact the precious metals industry. And actually, this is the first major asset class that can inherently be put on chain from its foundation, from its beginnings. I'm also co-founder at Tixi, which is a live events platform and ticketing application where we also put tickets on chain. So for me, the RWA term is extremely broad, but once again, I think the standards we set for space assets is something that's extremely important for almost all markets over the coming years.
Oh, you're so right about RWAs, man. There's so many opportunities and so many different things people are doing with RWAs. It'd be a shame if we only kept it to one single thing. But let me kind of kick it off by asking you guys something important and just to get a better understanding of the crowds that we're dealing with, right? When it comes to tokenizing, specifically, let's say tokenizing precious metals, what would you guys say is the most, what's the thing that people get wrong, right? That misconception that people kind of come in thinking that this is how it is, this is how it's going to be. And all of a sudden they go, whoa, this is way better than I thought, or this is not what I thought it was going to be like at all. Maybe you guys can kind of go over some of those, those misconceptions to kind of kick us off. Audrey, I see you're biting the bits to jump in here.
Well, I mean, there's different angles for that, right? So obviously the one that I find I'm seeing the most, especially to people not in the space, is that it's not crypto, right? That it's it's a real world asset. It's just a digitized token version of a real world asset. So I think that's the number one misconception, is that it's crypto. So yeah, that's what I would say is the biggest misconception for me.
Sure, that totally makes sense. Anything else from you guys here?
Perhaps I can answer something. Okay, yeah, I think the biggest misconception of RWA, or we call it go back token here, is people see this as another kind of, for example, ETF or paper gold. But we are not. When we build gold ship, we need 100% backed by physical gold. So we see it rather like a warehouse receipt of physical gold, rather than a financial product which are similar to ETF or paper gold, because paper gold actually behind that, they do not really have to go there. They might have a future contract to support the value, but we are not. We have every single bar we have in the vault to support our token. So maybe one of the biggest misconception here, what I think. Yeah.
I mean, that's great to hear, because I know even the dollar, we don't have all of that, backing what it's supposed to be.
I have another one, unless somebody else wants to go. Another misconception, but from the other side, from the issuer side, is that it's a fast route to money, and it is not. It is not. And I try to explain to people that now you're actually adding an additional layer of regulation. Maybe not for space, but you're adding an additional. Precious metals are heavily regulated, much like financial assets. So it's not so, again, people like, oh, I can just raise millions and millions of dollars very easily. And it's like, no. No.
Yeah, I think it's 2017. 18 and the original ICO days, that might be a little bit more possible, but now it's now it's more strict, I'd say. I would just add on to it that it's not just like a digital wrapper. I think the amazing thing really about this technology is its programmability and kind of introduction of new utility factors. So not just taking something that, let's say, might be physically held somewhere and making it have more velocity or be dynamic. I think the programmability of assets is awesome. So, attaching yield to it. I have a good friend of mine, Kieran Lubin, who built a company called Strato. So they're, not just tokenizing gold and silver, et cetera, but they're attaching yield to it, different sort of capabilities on how to utilize it. And I think that's going to be for a lot of people, a misconception around RWAs. It's we're just taking something and we're tokenizing it, and there's no additional utility that can be added onto it.
I mean, to counteract what you said, Audrey, real quick, I mean, it is real money as opposed to if you're holding fiat. So you're technically, finally getting your hands on money for something of real value to a certain extent. But I completely understand where you're coming from. A lot of people are coming into the space going, like you were saying, Grant, like, are we back in the ICO days? Can we flip this, 100x overnight? And that's not necessarily what we're looking at. We're looking at real assets that actually have, value behind it, as opposed to a lot of things that are going on out there. And it's just, a PvP game. Essentially, who can cash out first and make their bags before the next person kind of tries to take it out of them. But in this space, it's been kind of wild. I think it was volumes just on like daily volume have reached like almost $700 million in a single day for precious metals. How does this translate, right? Like, given this has been such a talked about commodity out there, everybody's been talking about gold. It's one of those things like oil and gold now are the most talked about commodities out there in the world right now. What do you think is going to make the difference here? Like, because we're looking for investors that not only understand that market, but also wants to take it to the next level and say, hey, we can actually transact faster, quicker, more secure ways of transacting. Like, what do we do now to get the adoption rate to come over to the light side here, of crypto, I guess you can say?
Well, from silver point of views, I would say that actually by tokenizing the asset, it's actually providing a very accessible investment tools to our potential investors, retail investors. Because let's say you're interested in investing in silver bullions, you just go into any shopping malls, any jewelry store. I don't think you can find like investment grade silver products. You might find like a silver jewelries, but whenever you're trying to sell it back to the jewelry store, they charge you like 10-20% discount from your purchase price. So it's not being very effective or efficient way of silver investments. So from this point of view, we are thinking about that. Or with blockchain, you can transact 24/7. You're actually reducing the entrance barriers for a lot of people. Because if you're rich enough, you got like private banking access, then of course you have a lot of different channels to participate in silver market or in bullion market. But if you're like normal workers, or maybe you're from some of the less wealthy Southeast Asian countries, you might not have a very well-developed banking infrastructure. Maybe silver, precious metal is originally your storage of values, and now we provide you with a more easy or more handy way of storing your values. Instead of having like a silver Buddha at home or gold Buddha at home, now you can just store everything in your phone. Your phone is like everything is a necessity for everyday life right now, for even for very poor countries. So if that's the case, I think that's what we're trying to solve, and what values that we are providing to our investors.
Very, very well said. Anything else you guys think is going to drive adoption to our fun little space here? That's still little.
Well, I think regulation, right? Especially in the United States, we keep hearing on how fast the U.S. is progressing on that front, including the NASDAQ, starting to list these assets. So I think that's a big part of adoption. Is what we've been lacking on the tokenization of precious metals is liquidity, right? And that's only been kind of seen at the institutional level. And so now I think maybe by this year, you'll see more retail, right? By the end of this year, more retail play, especially in the US.
Yeah, I think part of the retail issue is removing although, like RWAs aren't technically crypto, the user experience is still heavily tied to crypto. Yeah. So I think the more you remove crypto friction and the better you market that, and not in a crypto way of sort of marketing, the more that retail will come in. Because at the end of the day, all of us here have been around crypto, et cetera. It's a little bit more normal for us, but like I don't even like using exchanges in most crypto projects myself, and I've been around it for more than a decade. So let alone someone else who might want to, buy $10 worth of gold. Well, why do I need a wallet? What is this? Private keys, all these sort of things. So I think the big thing over the next 5 years in crypto, or whatever you want to call the space, is going to be, I've always said, even 10 years ago, I said this, the big success of crypto is going to be when billions of people are using it, but they don't really know that they're using it at the end of the day. So that'd be my input on that.
You mentioned something really interesting, and I completely agree with you. And I've been in the space for a long time. That's wallet fatigue. So anytime some new project comes down the pike and it's like, you need to download our wallet, I will pause and go, no.
Yeah.
You have to be so spectacular. You have to be so spectacular and so different. Because how many wallets do we, right? And everyone's like, we got to use our wallet. There's not, I don't want any more on my phone. I don't want any more. So you need to make it out of the park for me to go, I am definitely going to download this wallet. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like, I have wallet fatigue.
I agree.
It's like if I can't use one of that 20 wallets I already have, like I'm probably going to pass. Pass.
Well, I'm even reducing the number of applications in my phone so as wallet. So
right?
I can't imagine I having multiple. I don't need 4 or 5 banking apps on my phone. I just need one that is good enough. It's the same case for wallet as well. I don't need 5, 10, 20 wallets. I just got my MetaMask will be good enough to fit most of our use case, right?
Okay. Oh, we lost we lost you, Ronald.
Okay. Okay, I would like to make a remark on the adoption way, how to raise it. Okay, I think we by launching this GoSip project, I would like to make a change in the industry, because gold has always been like a dead weight in the world. It doesn't generate any income. However, if we tokenize it, and we can tap into those DeFi protocols, so we can generate some interest or some benefit for the investors. So that is the direction I'm moving to. Okay.
Very fair. And I gotta say, it's one of those things that I love precious metals, and I've been doing this for a little while now. Costco has been my holy grail for precious metals, believe it or not. But nowadays, you can't even find it. Everything's out of stock. It's wild, right? You can get usually the price over there, you're paying about $30 over futures price. So for example, 10 ounces of silver, it's $750. While the price of futures is roughly around $73 an ounce. But you can't get it. Right. It's gotten to the point where it's becoming a rarity for you to be able to actually walk in or even order it online for you to be able to get this. So access to these metals has just gotten worse and worse and worse. And it's not because it's not something people want. I think it's the opposite. It's because a lot of people actually want the asset and don't have access to it. So it makes it more and more difficult for people to get their hands on, even especially when they're trying to spend, less than $1,000, let's say. Now it brings us to where we are today. Is there regulatory issues for you guys? Is there something holding back, the pushing forward of this? And I say this as somebody who's had conversations now with 4 different companies in Africa, literally at the mining site, from Ghana to Nigeria. I've been talking to everyone over there in regards to some of these things, and they want the gold out, but they also want to be able to sell the gold that hasn't come out quite yet. They're doing everything in their power to tokenize things because they see this as being the future. And yet a lot of them are not ready to move forward because they don't have the clarity that they need. What do you guys think this is going to look like as regulations develop, as regulations kind of come out? We got this gold versus silver set up. Do you think, which one might have the most, how do I even say this, upside potential overall? Simply because, if regulations open up, everybody is going to be able to try to get into this. And when I say regulations, different countries have different regulations, right? So we're dealing with so many different little instances here. Maybe sometimes a country that has a lot of silver might benefit better than somebody else that has gold, and they're not able to regulate it quite yet. You guys are absolutely ahead of the curve, leading the way in this space, but there's still that question of which one comes first as far as upside potential is concerned, at least over, let's say, the next year or so, because things are moving fast, but which one moves first in your guys' opinion? I'm gonna guess it's gonna be silver, but go ahead, Grant.
I'll just take a stab at that. I mean, as Audrey said, you know, precious metals and stuff is a little bit, let's say, more regulated than some token you can quickly generate, you know, on a smart contract. With that said, in my experience over the past 12 years, and someone who's been, you know, around the regulated space, built one of the first RegTech platforms for crypto, I don't see that much of a downside for entities that just kind of push the ball themselves in the private market. You know, if you hit it really, really big, you generate enough value for yourself that even if, let's say, the SEC goes after you, that you just pay the fine, and it's extremely profitable to approach it that way. I'm just being really honest from what I've seen in the market over years. At the end of the day, I think, you know, the US obviously leads around the regulatory thing because they're the only one that are willing to chase you around the world, you know, and pull you out from whatever hole you're hiding in. So for me, I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. You know, as someone who's built a few ventures in the space, you know, I've thought about how much I've lost because I'm constantly considering, you know, what is the best regulatory practice around something. I mean, I'm not the specialist like you guys are around the gold and silver aspect, but my guess is that there's a lot of activity that's happening that's probably not fitting whatever regulatory standard there is, or there is no regulatory standard from where they operate, so they're just running with it how they see fit.
That's very true. Let me ask you, in regards to the space tokenization of things, like I know that's definitely a different space, but we're still tokenizing. Are you dealing with a lot of regulatory, you know, red tape when it comes to your space, by the way, Grant?
What we deal with, what we're most worried about is securities regulation. So we actually segregate the asset class into two different categories, what we call financial space assets. So those are tokenized vehicles, mechanisms for funding space infrastructure and funding what we call real world space assets, which we actually utilize NFTs for that. Those are tied to unique, commercially viable assets with utility like payload space and rockets, data, et cetera. So those technically don't touch on securities sort of aspects. So the financial space assets, most of those, unless you're launching a pure utility token, which might be some rare cases, they don't. So one of the big opportunities around, you know, the space market is like we get to define standards, even terminology like real world space asset. Like I came up with that before RWAs was really a thing. It's like you have a unique opportunity to define and implement standards for a whole new asset class, which is, I'd say, less than once in a lifetime sort of opportunity.
No, absolutely. I mean, talk about being cutting edge of technology here. I think it goes beyond that. Like we're literally setting the tone for what the space is going to look like in the future, which is really exciting. And I got to say, like Audrey, Ronald, Barry, you guys are in a better space than, you know, Grant is, simply because you're dealing with a commodity. There's no question about it. You know, there's no, you know, regulatory gray area. It's gold, it's silver, it's precious metals that are actually commodities.
But what you like, so you mentioned regulation, right? So there's obviously regulation. And here's what I'm finding from, like, say, the junior mining side or from the mining side. There is such a they're in a hot market right now. It's a seller's market, so to speak, in precious metals. They don't need to look at a tokenization model, right? They're selling. It's like you said, if you're selling out gold, why do you want to add an extra layer of hoops? Why do you want to add? Because you have to say to every well, what your lawyers say, and that costs them more money. Now, from a retail perspective, this is because one of the things that's happening right now is the tokenization of in-ground gold, right? The land underneath. And I just read an interesting analysis actually by a mining finance guy who said the numbers don't add up. Like the math doesn't work. Right. So the math doesn't work. The amount of value you can buy in a gold mining company stock that is extracting gold from the ground is way more valid, and a proper price to gold per ounce based on where they are in the extraction process. Whereas what value they're trying to tell you is in the gold that's already in the ground. It's off. Let's just say it's off. They're saying it's higher than really what the value is. And then the issue with that too is if it's not in a tier 1 mining area, like Canada, the United States, and Australia are the heaviest regulated in regards to mining and laws around it. If it's land or mining assets that are not in tier 1 jurisdictions, you have a risk, right? You have a risk that the government can just take it, or you know what I mean? So from
or worse.
Retail side, do your homework. Don't just think because somebody's telling you it's silver or it's gold. There's differences between gold that's stored in Swiss vaults and gold that's stored in my basement. There's big differences in the value.
I like the gold stored
I
in my
really
basement better.
want to echo to Audrey's point on regarding the mining aspect, because we sold our group of companies sold a gold mine like 2 years ago, and actually we're using like 5 years average price to do the valuations. So if anyone telling you that they're selling you like underground gold at like maybe 5-10% discount to like spot price right now, is a rip-off from you. You're really a scam program, because it's not how the industry works. So that's really retail investors need to do their homework. We really need to look into how things are doing in the rim.
Wait, hang on, Ronald, because I'm ignorant when it comes to this thing. Like, what should be that discount? Like 5-10% is not enough. Like, what should it look like? You said you did the 5-year analysis to this thing.
Well, we are doing a 5 years weighted average to calculate the valuations of the mine. So let's say, last year is like $5,000, something like that. But if you weighted it in 5 years, then maybe the average selling price you're actually paying for underground value is like $2,000 per ounce, or maybe $3,000 per ounces. Then it's a big cut from the spot price right now, like 40%. So if someone telling you like 10-15%, it's not reasonable, because it's not the industry standard. If you do the math, you just do your weighted, ask the AI to work out a 5-year average for you, then you will know the price right now. We don't have mining operation right now, but that's what we come across. And I think that time we're selling like, I think $1,800, something like that, 5 years average.
Wow.
So it's a big cut from the current spot price. So that's the norm, I would say. So if you're expecting like 10-20% discount, that's a no. Definitely too good to be true.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, and talk about anything that's new. I mean, you mentioned the ICO craze earlier on. Tokenization of gold is not one of those things that everybody's so used to. So this is where people are going to being taken advantage of, right? Because they don't understand the numbers. They don't exactly understand how the numbers are supposed to be. They're thinking they're comparing apples to apples. They're like in-ground gold versus gold, same thing, right? Like, not necessarily, guys. There's definitely a silver lining to what can or should be done in this space, and how people are actually extracting value from others. But when you talking about tokenization of assets here, like, how do you guys see these tokenized metals fitting into this broader RWA ecosystem? Because let me tell you, RWAs are like the most profitable / biggest volume asset in crypto, because they love to bundle everything in. Doesn't matter if it's space assets like you're talking about, Grant, or even stable coins. They consider everything RWAs. How does precious metals kind of play a role in the RWA narrative that we're kind of seeing play out right now?
If I can make a real quick comment, I actually don't like how RWA is being applied as a term or defined, which is pretty much anything and everything is RWA. I actually think it needs to be specified quite a bit. So that's why even when you heard me talking, I segregated space asset classes. Like, no, these are financial space assets. Their inherent value is either speculative or it's a vehicle for financing or whatever it may be. And then RWAs are there to represent ownership, rights, utility of unique particular assets like payload, data, computation capacity, and orbit, things like that. So I think I kind of don't like the way that it's been approached, which is just throw everything into a bucket and call it RWA. I think part of that is marketing and fundraising strategy for companies as well.
100%. I completely agree with you. And I'll be honest, like a term that I came up with that I love for any precious metals or anything that's coming out of the ground. It can be metals, it can be uranium. It doesn't matter what it is. Like RM RMAs, right? Real mineable assets.
Mineable
Breaking things up just makes a lot more sense. I'm 100% with you, Grant.
Okay.
And that was a little, that's why I brought up the stable coins, because that's exactly what's happening. You know, we're kind of inflating the RWA markets because of stables all the time. I mean, that those are big numbers, so it definitely makes it stand out. But how do you guys think, you know, the silver or the golds of the world are actually going to move the needle into this, you know, the vision, I guess you can say, of RWAs? Because you sure call everything RWAs, but people have to have an understanding that there's more than one category underneath of it.
Actually, I've been dealing with a regulator quite a lot recently. Okay, there's something I encounter when I'm dealing with them. Okay, they try to classify what is RWA. It's hard for me because okay, sometimes they want to see it as a security, which I completely disagree. But sometimes they like to regulate it like a stable coin. So I don't know what to say about it, because we are not either. We are not stablecoin. We are just I want to present it like a warehouse receipt, which is digitalized. Because traditionally, if you have some gold in the vault in the storage house, you got a receipt, okay, to prove the ownership of your gold. Okay, we just want to digitize this holding. Okay, which this title, the proof of title can be transferred, which I think is perfectly to put on blockchain, which can transfer easily. So that's the thing I like to express to the regulator, but they have difficult to classify. They're actually they have difficult to understand what I'm saying. So that's I try to sort out. Okay, work with them. So yeah, so.
I mean, they love classifying whatever is most convenient for them,
Exactly.
you know.
They want to put things in the right box. Okay, so, they do not want to have an extra box which have some strange thing in that new box.
Now,
How do you see it, like same risk, same supervisions, Barry? Do you think there's like same risk, and the level of supervisions or regulations are really reflecting the risk in gold or silver token? I'm really confused about that part. I don't see it that risky for professional or qualified investors only.
Actually, I agree with you. I don't see the risk because well, as I said before, we are issuing a digital form of warehouse receipt. Okay, that is proof that thing you're holding is already proof you have something in the vault. So if you don't feel comfortable about we are holding your gold, then you just come forward and redeem it. So I don't see any risk, but for the regulator, they don't see this thing before. They did not regulate warehouse receipt before, so they have difficulty to figure out which category we are putting this thing in. So actually, we try to make things simple. However, they want to complicate things. So that's my opinions about it.
Well, they wouldn't have a job if they didn't complicate it. Okay, that's
Yeah.
part of the art.
Yes. Completely agree with you.
that could not be more true. I mean, that's I hate being that guy that says, "Yep, that's right," but that is exactly what I see happening time and time again. But a cool trend that I'm seeing a lot of times is actually the, what do you call it, the de-dollarization of the world, in a sense, right? We're pulling money out of fiat and putting it into, you know, real assets, I guess the best way to say it. You're talking about your precious metals, even with you, Grant, like putting money into things that are, you know, actually have value. You know, I guess I'll go to you, Barry, on this one. Like, you know, as you see like BRICS nations and China basically accelerate in relocating 20% of their gold and silver reserves, like, do you think that this political shift is gonna like change the way that people are doing, you know, cross-border transactions?
Okay, I have to express this in my personal opinion, because okay, I understand this the de-dollarization thing is a hot topic right now, especially there's a geopolitical things going on in the Middle East. Okay. However, I think dollar is going to stay and going to stay long because people are so used to have US dollar to
Mhm.
price tag something. Okay. We are so used to it. And if you uh, want to use renminbi or yuan to price something, and that's difficult to people to switch around. So I think that's why I think this dollar, US dollar, will stay for some time. Okay. I even think when I discuss with my friend, okay, I even make such a claim. Okay, the British Empire left us a legacy, which is English. That's why we are using English to
Mhm.
communicate. Why now? But for the United States, okay, the biggest legacy is the US dollar because the world is so used to use it to price something, which cannot be easily replaced by another currency or another value standard. So okay, I understand that the China might be doing something to for example, they store a huge amount of gold. Okay, but they might have something prepared for the de-dollarization, but they would not urgently push this agenda. They will hold on because having US dollar uh is good for them because last year in the 2025, the trade surplus of China is record high. Okay,
Mhm.
and this year, what they're going to do? Okay, this trade surplus is not a good thing. It's bad for the country's image and how China work with other countries. That's difficult. It's not a good thing. So we expect in this year, maybe the few years later, the value of yuan against US dollar will appreciate. So people will buy less Chinese good, and Chinese people will buy more foreign goods. So
Mm.
this will balance the trade. Okay, so Chinese need this US dollar to be in the middle. They would not replace it easily with the yuan. If you replace it, they don't have this leverage to uh I don't want to use the word manipulate, but they can um use it to do something on the exchange rate so that to make the trade surplus not that big. Okay.
No, it
So
totally makes sense, and it's not a matter of, like, the
mm,
dollar going away necessarily. It's about finding
no.
instruments that allow people to
Mm,
have better ways to transact without losing
mm,
value in those transactions, right? And
mm,
that's why I bring up gold and silver in this scenario, like you
mm,
guys are actually tokenizing, because if I'm a person that likes gold, let's say, and I
mm.
don't wanna transact in
Right.
dollars, I don't wanna transact in other currency because I see gold as the most valuable thing there is in my book. So, to me, if I'm, it's the way I treat Bitcoin, for example. I haven't spent Bitcoin in a couple of years now. And it's
Mm,
because any Bitcoin that I, have, I save. It just goes away into the vault is the best way for me to
mm,
say it. And that's kind of how I treat, precious metals as well. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people are kind of excited about, because it doesn't matter what happens with BRICS. It doesn't matter what happens with the US.
mm,
They don't have control over gold necessarily in the sense that they can
mm.
print more of it. They don't have control of it, saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to go ahead and do some fractionalized lending with gold." Like that doesn't exist. You either
No.
have it or you don't, right?
Mm,
It's
mm,
a very black and
mm,
white scenario, which makes it very exciting for people that understand where value really comes from. And Grant, let me get you in the conversation real quick here in regards to the tokenization and how you're seeing things, because you're in an adjacent space, I guess you can say, because you're dealing with diversification of these crazy assets that most people would never be able to get their hands on, and finally leveraging NFTs for something that's useful. How do we see that as the I don't want to call it the de-dollarization, but something that people can actually diversify with, because that hasn't been available before, right?
Well, I think, with what we're doing, the way I compare it historically is like you had the first era of exploration, which was, new ship technology, et cetera, made everything faster, safer to reach, et cetera. But really what made it pop and actually built the most valuable company in human history was building an entirely new financial infrastructure and marketplace that fueled that whole economy, which was, okay, how do we diversify risk of investments, open up access, and create a marketplace to trade the assets that came out of these ventures. Back then, voyages, here it's rocket launches, it's satellites, et cetera. So I think, for us, the main battle is a mental education one, where we're even answering such a basic question as what represents verified ownership of an asset in space, right? SpaceX is about to do the largest IPO in history. That will be a big pusher into people going, okay, this is a valid market to invest in beyond, select VCs and how they're looking at it. And then there's going to be entities like us that are opening up that gateway to either become a stakeholder through investment or a stakeholder and participant through what we call the real world space assets. So like, for example, we did a moon mission sort of test last year where we proved a new model both on how to finance a lunar payload and then how to commercialize it. And we had hundreds of B2B and B2C participants who literally sent their assets and are now on the lunar surface. So there's two sides to this market where it's like, okay, how do we finance it and how do we commercialize it? So the democratization of space is going to be something you're going to hear more and more of, because the people who are going to own the infrastructure in space are going to be some of the most powerful or wealthiest people on Earth. Musk has already proven that in some sort of manner, but this is only going to increase over time. And that's why you see this thing around like data centers in space. You might have seen that if you're paying attention. Big hype on that. It's like one thing space has failed to communicate is for 60 years, and now it's going to accelerate at a bigger pace. It's been responsible for some of the most important inventions, solutions that positively benefit life on Earth. So you're going to start seeing energy. You're going to start seeing all these things going into space. And for us, it's okay, how do we build that economic infrastructure, the models, and try to open it up to as many people as possible, because we don't want to repeat the same mistakes we've made over centuries, which is centralize that ownership, across a couple parties. So do I view it as something for you to hedge against the dollar? No, not yet. But I view it as something that's not only a big opportunity, but is extremely important for humanity to build it on a new reality, a new model. And like I said, it's the first major asset class that you get to inherently, from pretty much day one, put it on chain. And as someone who's been around the market a long time, the big issue around like penetration of blockchain in mass horizontally in markets is you have decades of legacy systems, all this sort of stuff behind each one of these asset classes. And this one just doesn't. So I appreciate you asking that, because, it's something that I even did an interview the other day, and he's like, oh, so what are you guys, selling plots of land on the moon? I'm like, no, that's not even legally possible. But once you start going through kind of the logic of it, people go, oh, okay, now I get what it's about.
I mean, you can say that about people selling plots of land on
Metaverse.
Earth that they don't own. And I got an NFT for it.
I'm commenting on that because I come out of the digital media space as well and stuff like that. So I could have told you early on that that's going to blow up in everyone's face. So.
No, but all right. So we're talking about these assets that are essentially trying to, in a way, safer sometimes not. I mean, it's an investment tool for a lot of RWAs, but when it comes to precious metals and the the things that we're kind of discussing, they kind of are not safe from geopolitical shocks a lot of times. I guess the question is, like, when you're dealing with a portfolio, like, what does the allocation actually look like? Are we, mix? Is the best way to kind of mix these assets, these, precious metal assets with Bitcoin, with Ethereum? Like, what does a good portfolio look like exactly to be on the safe side of things, right? Ronald's gonna say you should just buy silver. Your whole asset should just be silver.
Well, that's a biased answer, but it's true that our portfolio did really well last year because of the silver price. And indeed, we have a very limited exposure on crypto asset. I think like it's 10% on our portfolios, and like majority of the portfolios will be stock and precious metal, basically silver and gold. I think nearly half of it, like half is remaining half would be half is stock and precious metal, basically. And with tokenization, you can stake it or lend it out, and you can generate yield from tokenized precious metal. It just changed the nature of like traditional slow moving negative yield precious metal investments, because we like to invest in physical bullions like gold bar, silver bar in our vault, and you're paying out like vault costs, insurance costs, and everything. So with tokenize it, then you don't need to pay for that. You just put it on like different lending platform. You generate yield backs, or you can swap it with like stable coin and generate all kind of yield. Then, investing in precious metal is really a good investment in that regard, because you have the upside potential, especially if you believe in like debasement trade, de-dollarization. Then maybe you should keep up a bit on your precious metal portfolio, maybe half, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we are a bit aggressive. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not being held like responsible for that comment suggestion. You should do your own math, but we are being a little bit aggressive on that part.
No, totally makes sense. Let me bring something up. I just realized like we like to talk, and we're actually good at it here. Something that happened, what was it, yesterday? We saw Circle take a 20%, over 20% haircut, simply because of the new Clarity Act, saying that they would not be able to earn passive yield rewards on USDC holdings. Precious metals live outside of that, which is actually exciting. Is there a risk, you guys think, to see something like this, as far as regulation is concerned, affect the realms that you guys play in?
Well, we come across like different lending platform, and when lending platform check with us whether there's like someone who is willing to do the liquidations, we just say yes. We're more than welcome to be the liquidators. We just willing to take back all the physical assets, because we have been trading physical asset anyways. So we don't mind to do that. But in case there's any kind of haircut, if you're able to get back the physical bullion itself, you can always sell it at like full price. So your risk is relatively mitigated when compared with like other digital asset, I would say. So in that regard, I think, maybe it's a better collateral than other asset class, I would say.
Okay.
Definitely makes sense there. Anything else from you guys as far as like the risk here, as far as regulators kind of just all of a sudden going, all right, we're kind of done with gold, we're kind of done with silver, or do you think it's a little bit safer than what we're seeing on these drafts for the Clarity Act?
Not much.
Good. No, that's a good thing. You're kidding me? Like, happy day for me. Like, this is exactly the answer that I want to hear. Like, I don't want to have to worry about some of these things, right? It's something that we thought like, oh yeah, stables, that's great, that's fine. Even investing in companies like Circle, we saw them, kind of take over the US when it comes to stable coins, and all of a sudden, things drop 20%. That's kind of a shock, right? It's not something that your average investor is used to, seeing 20% drop on, the value of a company. It's not something that they see every day. It's definitely something that's outside of their normal realm of expectation. But when it comes to what we're kind of looking forward to over the next few years, what do you guys I guess predict is the best way to kind of say it? Do you think that the entirety of our I don't want to call it financial systems, but the way that we trade, the way that we goods and services here, are we going to see more and more blockchain adoption to where Goldie City is going to be the way that you just transact with gold? You don't have to go to some kind of crazy exchange, get all types of verifications, and ensure that you're in the specific state and zip code to be able to do something. Are we opening up the rails here, and like what does that look like over the next couple of years?
Well, okay, for GoSip, okay, I would say we will have a plan to bring GoSip to general public. okay, to the retail, not as a, maybe not as an investment. However, use it as some kind of a payment. Okay, some kind of payment. Maybe we can put it into a credit card. Okay, and then people can spend US dollar, and then that the spending will be compensated by what they have in the card. Okay, so there's some application we have been thinking of. So people can keep their saving
Mhm.
in GoSip, and maybe spare part of their spending using such a credit card or credit card debit card. So we would like to bring it uh to a bigger adoption to the public.
So different ways of actually utilizing your tokenized
Exactly.
assets as opposed to just
Yeah.
sitting there.
But of course, there will be a we need approval from the regulator because they see this thing as a really strictly. Yeah, especially when you use such thing as a payment. So they are pretty strict about this. Yeah.
No, I can only imagine. That totally makes sense. I mean, you're essentially at that point competing with the big guys, right? Like they definitely like having control of the market as much as possible. So anything that's going to disrupt that, they're going to push back against it. And sometimes they push back with regulators, and that's totally understandable. I mean, once you have a system, what you want to do is try to prevent anybody else from getting in there, right? It's why they're always raising the bar. I mean, literally why people have to pass the bar to become a lawyer. That does, you can be a genius. You can, argue, left and right in court, but if you don't pass the bar that these people have set, you're not a lawyer, for example. So this happens in every industry across the board around the globe. So it's really a matter of understanding, like, okay, these guys want to play hardball. How can we get past these blockades and provide value for ultimately the consumer, right?
Yeah, follow the path. Definitely.
To what Barry said. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
In the US, you don't have it, but in Europe, you have something called Revolut. It's out of the UK. So to what Barry was saying is, for example, what I used to do is when you use your Revolut card, you can, use it digitally as well. Is they'll take, let's say, round up to the nearest dollar or whatever currency you're using, and it will throw that into Bitcoin, right? For example. Not actually buying Bitcoin, you're pretty much buying a contract for that Bitcoin. That's a whole other, rabbit hole we can go down another time. But to the gold and the silver thing, I think that would be very interesting for people to have, is that sort of kind of option to kind of passively take quote unquote spare change, just continuously accumulate. Once again, it's not real ownership, but rights of ownership, whatever you want to call it.
Ownership.
To gold. I think that would be an interesting thing to see over the next couple of years.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, absolutely. And I think there's other examples of that as well. I mean, we're not only just the rounding up, but the cash back, right? Cash back in the US is very, very popular. So I'm actually good friends with these guys, but the Fold app, for example, they've been around for almost a decade now, I want to say, and they give 1.5% back in Bitcoin. That's been their thing for as long as I can remember. And they've done really, really well, because when they started, let's say, Bitcoin was a lot cheaper than that. So there's no reason why this can't happen with gold, with silver, with different assets that we're actually looking at now. But again, it really does start with tokenization, because there's no way that I'm going to ship you an ounce of gold every time you hit a certain threshold or earn your cash back, right? That just doesn't make any sense. But when you tokenize things, it gives you the opportunity to actually have those financial tools available to you, which does change the game tremendously. I just noticed we're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to make sure that I give you guys a little bit of a chance to kind of go around the room here and say your piece, say your final words, maybe where you think things are headed and what you guys are focusing on over the next couple of years. It'd be great to hear. And I'll kick it off with you, Ronald.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think silver is the next growth point, because silver and copper is one of the very important metals in a lot of industrial use case, and it has been in deficit, global supply deficit for 6 years already. So we believe in silver that there will be a strong bullish. We're being very bullish on that, and we believe that the super cycle for commodity has started. I believe that if you haven't started looking into commodity, you didn't put your money into commodity, maybe you should start your homework right now and do not miss this opportunity. I think it can be a big change to your portfolio. That's what I would like to add on.
No, I completely agree, and at the bare minimum, is what you said, right? At least look into it. That's what I always tell people. If it's not something you're interested in, that's fine, but at least look into it. Make sure that it's not something you're interested in. Grant, let's shake things up. What's going on in space, man? What's going on with your space assets over the next couple of years? You think?
Well, I appreciate you specifying. I was actually Ronald kind of took what I was going to say, more focused on copper. I think, silver and copper are both used in, especially copper is used in almost every single technology we're using today. So especially as the data centers, all this sort of demand grows, you're going to see a bigger demand for that. So when it comes to the precious metals, I'd actually, kind of look at the copper to rise the most dynamically around everything. But again, I'm not a specialist when it comes to that. When it comes to space assets, in general, look at it as a market that's relevant. It's a market that's already over $600 billion in worth. 78% of that is commercially private, so it's not dominated by government sort of movements like it has been. There's over 10,000 companies operating in that space. And it's, again, the models that we're bringing to it is back to that first era of exploration is, okay, let's take out of looking at how you can participate in space is just through equity of a space company. It can be ownership of a satellite of that space company or a select piece of infrastructure. Next year, you have the first private space stations scheduled to go up. There's loads of different infrastructure and opportunities. Like right now, we're doing a sale for a reusable rocket. First asset that's going up on it is a custom-made Swiss fine watch collection that goes up, comes back down. We authenticate it, attach certifications, and tokenize that into the real world space asset. And that objectively increases the rarity and the value of that formerly terrestrial asset and converts it into, a space asset. So even in like these, you can even take terrestrial assets and turn them into more unique, rare, and valuable space assets. It's kind of a novelty thing, but it's a multi-billion-dollar market that's actually kind of untapped. So we have people that want to put trading cards up, et cetera. We're just building the standards that whether it's a trading card or it's a satellite, we're just building the standards that horizontally apply, to the market around it. So my last communication around that is that space is the biggest market coming up. It's already a big market. There's loads of activity going around it. And obviously the SpaceX IPO is going to be kind of a watershed moment where the whole world gets to kind of have that proven on a big scale.
Okay.
Literally, right? Space is going up.
To the moon, literally, is what I'd like to say about.
Barry, how about yourself?
I just realized. Can you hear me? Because I just realized my video got frozen.
Oh,
okay.
Your video is frozen, but we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Hope you guys can hear me. Okay. Okay. I don't have much to say, but I'm still optimistic about gold. About the gold price. Okay. What I try to do and maybe the Gold project is trying to bring more utility to this metal, to this gold, bring more utility, not just a storage of value. Maybe we can use it for more on our daily transaction. So that's what I'm working on now. Okay.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, looking at those daily transactions, that's something that people can actually use every day. And again, I say this all the time, trade things that you actually use, trade things you actually understand. So the more you use it, the better off you're going to be. Audrey, I would love to give you the final word here to kind of close us out.
Goldie City, we're
Yeah.
clearly bullish on gold. So check it out, goldie.city, and beta is live and you can sign up for free. You want to tokenize gold? Come on over.
Wait, what's the website for that?
Goldie.city.
Goldie.city. Fantastic. Yeah, can't wait to check that out and see how we can actually get started on there. I mean, it's pretty exciting that beta is out. But I got to say thank you so much for everybody that listened in to us today and to our guests. You guys have been phenomenal. I know you're a little frozen there, Barry, but love the smile throughout this conversation. It's always good to have people that are actually excited to talk about things. It makes a big difference, and people can actually tell that you care about the topic, you care about the things that you're talking about. That definitely always shines through. So thank you so much for all you guys' participation. Ronald, Audrey, you're a legend. I love every time I get to talk to you. Grant, pleasure meeting you. It's been phenomenal, kind of understanding a little bit more what's going on with space assets. I can't wait to see where the space goes, pun intended there, as a whole, because there is plenty of opportunity, and you guys are, leading the way. And I couldn't have asked for anything better. Like you said, Grant, I've been in the space for well over a decade as well, and seeing what's happening with it now, I wouldn't want to live at any other moment in time. This is really exciting, talking about not only these emerging technologies, but how to leverage these technologies to not only transact, but see the world in a different lens and be able to, give access to people that would otherwise not have access to these assets. So thank you all so much for what you're doing, for your insights and everything that we kind of went through today. Please make sure that you guys are following these accounts that you might be watching on right now, so that you can get more updates on what's going on with Goldie City. Genzio, also, if you guys are watching on YouTube, that's also a great platform to follow. So thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to do this again. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Genzio is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a hive.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Rebecca's Genzio Media House.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today.